So, just got this message from God. Let me just check it out real quick.
What topic are we talking about?
The afterlife.
Oh.
What happens when we die? You know, Dan, could you start us off?
I don't know. I think I share the same thoughts that a lot of people do. I don't actually know. But it is possible for many things to happen.
That's true.
What do you think happens, Matt?
That sounds like a cop-out.
I'll get into it more as we...
I definitely, I believe that people have souls, personally. I don't know where they go, but I think that all of us are connected in a higher stream of consciousness, and when you die, there's a possibility that you go back to being a part of that collective stream of consciousness. And the higher power of God, a lot of people call it that. Yeah. You said you hope that it's just blackness.
I kind of hope that it's like a soothing sleep that you just
Forever.
go into. Or I kind of hope, now that I'm thinking about what you said with souls, I do agree, I do think that people have souls, absolutely. I wish that you got grouped with all the people that you are most alike and you guys can just like pal around forever in your soul world.
That would be good. That would be really good.
That'd be fun. Only if you're a good person.
Yeah, for real. Like, if you're trash, like, get out.
I think there's one thing I know about when my time comes, and that's I know my physical body will be at rest, and like that gives me peace. And I think death is something I've like struggled with in my life to begin with, especially when I was younger. I was telling Matthew the story. When I was a little kid, my mom was in the bathroom upstairs, and we were getting ready in the morning. And I'm like, Mom, like I'm afraid to die. I don't want to die. Like she goes, and she did a very motherly thing. She's like, oh, you know, sweetie, like you know, you don't have to worry about that for a very long time.
Was that how the day started? She was just there getting ready for the day, and you just go, Mom,
God.
I don't want to die!
God bless
Where's
your mother.
this going from?
So, and I think it was something that I reoccurred throughout my life, especially my younger years. This acceptance of death, which I think is a thing in society that people are like, oh, death is this horrible thing. And I had that mindset when I was younger. It wasn't until we were living with our great grandmother at the time. She actually came and lived with us. She lived to be 103, bless her heart. But we took care of her, and her final months, we were able to spend that time with her, and just being able to see my great-grandmother's approach, like when she knew, like the time was coming, watching her like handle it with like just so much like peace, has given me the power to relax and know that when my time comes to rest, you know, my physical body will be able to rest, and that gives me peace. I don't know as far as where the mind goes or if there is a deeper level of consciousness, like you say, but I'm happy to know that my body will be able to have its rest.
That's a cool thing too, because you got you got actual hard evidence of that your physical body is going to be at rest when you're gone. So it's like that's cool that for that particular thing, you can sort of find like a spiritual sort of calming effect of it.
Yeah.
But like it's strictly rooted to like your actual physical, like scientific form, if you will.
Yeah, I think I for sure know what's going to happen when you die. You're just going to be reincarnated into a panda. That's honestly what's going to happen.
The
And if you,
Dungerschmau.
the Dungerschmau.
The Dungerschmau, yeah.
You're going to be a big panda. That's funny. I could see that. Just Dan.
I do have panda tendencies.
You do. You have every panda quality. You sleep in for 12 hours a day. Yeah.
Eats bamboo like
Eats
nobody's
bamboo.
business.
You have no idea.
You have a lot of calories, yes.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think
Just a big panda.
I think
Very attractive.
I'd be closest to you.
Oh,
With
is
what I
it?
think happens after you die.
Yeah.
I think there's some sort of energy that's out there in the universe. I think that's at least in part where our souls come from. And I think that for most people, when we die, we go back to that. Not really know what that means or what that entails, but because the thing that I've really thought about is when we die, if there's something past it, it's either reincarnation, so we get brought back here, just, oh man, back here again, or we have a whole nother form of existence past this. and
We become Super Saiyans.
the idea, yeah. Well, it's
Could
like,
be.
what would that be like? You know,
Yeah.
what would it be like to be Super Saiyan? It's like, what would it be like for you to live, for you to be in a different type of existence? I feel like just like trying to think about that is like absolutely impossible.
I think we're too simple.
Again, the dimension discussion. See our last video. The dimension discussion that we had. Essentially, those other dimensions are other levels of consciousness that we can't perceive in our physical world.
Right. So what if this is the third dimension and the fourth dimension is time? That's kind of, you know, all happening at once. Then what if the next dimension is just us being able to replay and watch our entire lives that we've already lived? And then what if beyond that there's multiple different timelines that we can explore? And then maybe when we die, we just go to a higher plane of existence or a lower one. Who knows? You know, the whole point is I really like this conversation because ultimately, whatever you come up with that gives you solace, that allows you to kind of be happy with it, that I think is the key. That's the real answer. Because at the end of the day, nobody in this room, nobody on this planet is going to know what really happens until it happens. Nobody really is going to know. So having that happiness, having that truth that you feel in your own heart, ultimately is, I think, what separates people from feeling good, like not good, but okay with death, or feeling not okay with death. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up with the accepting death, because I feel like it's really important, because you're stuck here alive and you're gonna come across death at some point in your life. So really your only choices are to accept it or to not accept it, and there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do to not accept it. But at the end of the day, everything you do and every choice you make it's gonna fall into one of those two categories. So because there's no escaping it, it's gonna be there.
It comes for everybody.
It comes for everybody, no matter what, and it doesn't care the time or the place. Wouldn't you rather have an existence where you accept this thing that's gonna be there no matter what, and that there's nothing you can do aside from accepting it that's gonna bring you any sort of peace? Because everything else doesn't bring you peace. Like denying it, trying to escape it, thinking there's a way around it, like doing mental gymnastics, being delusional. It's like none of that is really gonna help you in the long run feel comfortable with the concept of death while you're alive here on this mortal plane.
There's this film I saw recently called The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and it's a Coen Brothers film, and it's actually, the whole film is, I guess you'd call it a metaphor for death. And James Franco's in it, and he delivers one of the funniest lines in the film. I'll give a brief story about it. He gets in trouble, and he's about to get hanged for the first time.
Spoilers.
And then, yeah, spoilers. And then he somehow manages to get out of that situation to find himself later being hanged again. And the guy next to him's like, you know, kind of crying and like really sad about, you know, he's gonna die. James Franco leans over and he says to him, he says, "First time, huh?" It's just the funniest line in the film. But again, this whole film's like, it's coming for everybody.
Thinking about what you said before about the dimensions and stuff, I feel like deja vu is kind of, in a way, seeing into either a previous life that you lived.
Ooh.
Or I feel like when you said that thing about when you get to that that further plane where you could go and see the different like timelines in your life, sometimes I feel like now that you said that, what if deja vu is just yourself like looking at that one part of your life again, and that's why you get that feeling of like familiarity.
Yeah, that's trippy.
Yeah.
That is trippy. I could see that though. I think I'm that smart.
I
to
think-
perceive different dimensions and time and stuff. Yeah, I'm that smart.
It's crazy.
I think deja vu is related to the thing we talked about a little bit. I don't know if I can't remember if it's Socrates or Plato's gonna kill me. It's one of those.
One of those old.
One of those two
one
guys.
One of those old guys.
He had this idea. Basically, it was similar to reincarnation, where the thing that's the equivalent of the soul has lived before, and it goes through something that's like the land of the dead. And I think he uses the metaphor of the river Styx, if I'm not mistaken. But the point is, you go through this thing that's like a river, your soul, and it basically scrubs you clean of a lot of like your worldly knowledge. So not like the deep wisdom of being choosing good over evil, and like knowing that you're a human being and I'm supposed to exist here and make a family and like I'm alive on this world. It's like stuff like that sticks around. He's like, but your worldly knowledge, like knowing 2 + 2 = 4, knowing the year that this thing happened, he's like, that gets stripped away. And then when you're going through your life, there's times in your life, and I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, where you feel not like you've learned something new, like a new thought was put into your head,
Yes.
but something is told to you, and you're like, you just it's like it's thinking I knew that, but in a completely non-arrogant way. It's thinking I knew that already, but there's no arrogance to it whatsoever. You're just like, you just realize like, of course.
And you ponder on that.
I
You're
knew
like,
that already.
You're like, wow.
And
Like,
you think, how did I know that? How did I know that already? You don't know. So, Plato or Socrates, his whole idea is that's you regaining some of your past life knowledge again.
Wow.
It's like it's coming back to you, and I believe that a lot, because there's just a lot of times where you get this feeling as though that knowledge was stuck somewhere in your brain, and this person's particular way of wording it or presenting this idea just hatched it, and it just came back out.
I feel very similarly about something, and that's reoccurring dreams that I've had, and they've happened 7, 8, 10, 20 times in my life where it's like I've had that experience before, but I haven't, like, in my life.
Can I ask you what this reoccurring dream is?
Sure. It's strange. So there's like a small pond behind my house, and I go boogie boarding in it, and next thing you know, I'm climbing like these big, colorful like gym mats. Like, they're all stacked up around each other in different shapes and stars and stuff. Very strange.
Have you ever had a dream about a specific place, and then maybe sometime in the near future you actually are in that place?
Yes.
Yeah.
What is that? Like, how do you explain that? Seriously, like, it is the weirdest feeling. It's like it's like it hits you harder than deja vu, because you know that it was a dream. So then when you see that place, it's a really weird feeling, and it's just like, did I predict the future? Did I have a premonition? Am I just that creative? Is the world just that
made the
predictable?
future.
You are right by all those questions you asked right there in that moment, because that's exactly what happens. I go through the motions of saying, hey, did I subtly plan this in my mind a while back, like without even thinking about it? And then finding myself there.
Yeah. I accepted myself.
It's really weird when you see a situation, like in like a dream or whatever, and then it happens, and it's like a conversation, and you're finishing it word for word before they even say it.
Yeah. It's like, have I been here before?
I had that. I was in the car, and these two people were talking in Italian. I knew no Italian. I finished their conversation in my head, and I was like, in 3 seconds, a person with a red jacket's gonna come around the corner. Sure enough, it happened. I was like,
whoa, that's chilling, man.
That
gives me chills.
Something's weird.
Yep.
Goosies.
And it kind of ties into the whole the afterlife thing, really consciousness as well. But it makes you ask, okay, are we connected to something deeper? Is there something more? And even today, we still don't quite understand and know exactly what's going on, between our ears.
My favorite question, I talk about this with Cameron all the time, my favorite question, I think about this all the time, because I still have no answer for it, and I don't think I ever will, but that's fine. Where do thoughts come from?
Oh, yeah.
Like, and even if your answer is full stop, it's a byproduct of brain chemistry, okay? But where does it come from? Where does the idea to put a word in your mouth and have it come out as a word, where does that come from? Like, even if it's the byproduct of brain chemistry and your brain produces it, okay, but where did it come from?
The brain.
Just your brain?
The brain named itself.
Well, we live in a higher consciousness level than other animals that are on this earth. We do.
Maybe
we
that's
know
like,
that about ourselves.
Maybe that's the deja vu and like the predicting the future thing, is that maybe our brains are the thing, our consciousness is the thing that's capable of shifting between these like dimensional barriers. And then in certain times when we're super focused, or you know, and
High self-awareness.
high self-awareness, people who have like religious ecstasy experiences, certain psychedelic drugs, near-death experiences, like all these sorts of things. It's like there's a lot of stuff that has a common thread of the sensation of your mind going to a different sort of space. So maybe our consciousness is the thing that can do that, because our bodies definitely can't.
Yeah.
Because we can't teleport to other dimensions.
It's almost like our consciousness is receding back into something, or something else is connecting it.
Interacting with it.
It's almost like it's not fully dependent on being trapped in our actual brain, the actual physical shell, as if like it's beyond the need of being able to be trapped in like something of physical matter. Like it can just go in and out as it well pleases.
And I mean, once we solve the issues of survival, you know, we're able to clothe ourselves, keep ourselves warm, feed ourselves consistent meals, we don't have to worry about survival much these days.
No.
It's more of
we're very comfortable.
Yeah, we're very
We're
comfortable.
about maintaining that comfort.
It's one of the biggest sources, I think, of our problems and the
Yes.
dissatisfaction with life and everything.
Yep.
Because for so much of our history, all of our, even not just like our physical capacity, but so much of our mental capacity and our time and our effort was just geared towards the ideas of how do I best survive and make sure that my family survives. And now you don't have those worries. You have all these resources in the world at your fingertips, but none of the worries that drove you to make those resources at your fingertips. So it's like, what do you do?
It's become a big mental game.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, all the mental capacity and power that you had, that we had, our ancestors had to bring us to this point, we still have it, but it's almost like,
What are we doing?
it makes me think of this quote from Alexander the Great. When he would hear about his dad going off and winning all these victories, he would be like, "Oh, I want to weep because nothing left will be for me to. There'll be nothing left for me to conquer." And you know, I think it's that sort of thing.
I hate whiny rich boys like that.
I know. No. But what I'm getting at is, we've already had everything like done for us and like handed to us. So, but we still have that capacity to make more and to want to make more. That I feel as though there's a lot of people who just have this sense of like that everything's been done.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like as though I need to do something, and that's what my brain tells me to do. But since there's nothing for me that I feel like I can do, I'm just trapped in here with this brain thinking all this stuff all the time, and all of it is just directed inward and reflective.
Let me ask you this: do you think we're hitting our limits then, as far as consciousness goes?
No, I feel like we've already hit a point, or we're hitting a point where everything that we think of when we think of consciousness, or like cultural values, like cultural norms, like what it means to be a conscious individual in the world that we live in, I think that's gonna have a major shift in a way that years from now it's gonna be almost unrecognizable what we were doing now versus in the future. Because I feel like the way everything's going, it's like our old institutions, our old cultural values, like things like that, things like religion and older schools of philosophy and how to carry yourself in life and how to interact with people. I feel as though those things have come under such fire, and they've been shown to have so many problems, and they've torn people apart so much, and people have misused them and manipulated them in wrong ways, that it seems as though there's going to be a new way, like a new sort of ideology, and I can't really articulate it well, but
you know it's there.
It's going towards that, and I don't know what it is. It's going to be very interesting.
I think overall, there are a lot of different viewpoints on the afterlife and death, and a lot of it's cultural. Like a lot of the impact that you feel of it is cultural, and a lot of it is spiritual in the sense of the experiences that you have over time. But ultimately speaking, I think, as I was saying earlier, it's about what makes your own truth and what allows you to sleep at night, and trying to make sense of the little things like reoccurring dreams or anything along those lines. And that faith is important. I feel as though a lot of people, because they don't like organized religion or they haven't found something that really speaks to them, they're willing to say, you know, oh, none of that is real, God doesn't exist, spirituality doesn't exist, or something along those lines. And you can have that opinion. I just think it's a pretty bleak one to assume that nothing was here, this was all completely science, and you're just some freaking accident that the universe just kind of put together. It could be that way, but it goes beyond that. Like, explain the feeling of holding a baby in your arms and listening to a giggle. Like, explain that. That's not science. Explain love. That's not science. You can't explain that. You could say, oh, it's dopamine and this and this. Yeah, but no. Everybody understands the concept of love when they get out of the womb. How is that possible? How is that possible? Babies require a certain level of affection to survive. So there are common threads that we're all connected to, in a sense, that if we didn't have that connection, then we probably wouldn't understand simple concepts like love or something like that. And I shouldn't even call it a simple concept. Love is extremely complicated. You are putting... Love is when you put someone's needs over your own and you're willing to do anything for that person because you care for that person. Extremely. To almost beyond the point of maybe you even should. But you do. And everybody knows it. And the drive is there. Everybody knows it. You know? There's only so much... My point is there's only so much you can blame on animalistic tendencies and science and nature. And when you don't have the belief that you can have a belief because it would go against mathematical equations, then it kind of gets to a weird point. I had pointed this out with you, not to kind of steal the show, but I had pointed this out to you the other night when we were discussing this, and I said, faith is kind of in a weird way, it's kind of like, it makes no sense. And it's still possible to have faith in yourself. You can have faith in yourself. You can believe in yourself doing something. Everything starts out as a thought. And so your point, where do those thoughts come from? How does that start? But everything, every empire, every new way to package a food or serve people or anything that's ever existed has always started as a thought. So how? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are some answers that you just can't answer. There are some questions you just can't answer. And there are some things that you're never going to know before you die. And I think just kind of slapping a label on it and calling it, one religion or no religion or something like that is just... It's not being open to interpretation of different cultures and different understandings that are global.
And I could speak personally on that note because growing up, I went to religious school.
Yeah, so did I. Yep.
And, I didn't necessarily believe 100% or, 0%. But I've always kind of been somewhere in the middle for a while, and now I'm at a point in my life where I feel like I'm settling into a faith that matters to me,
yes.
And it's what I believe,
yes.
And it's helping me in ways that I can only try to explain, but I feel like I'm living a better life because of it.
Yes, because it's your own truth. It's your own personal truth. You've taken a massive amount of knowledge and influence from other cultures and traditions and religions and spiritualities and your experiences, and you've created your own truth, and that's what drives you. And that's what's important. It's not just believing something that your parents or your grandparents tell you or that society tells you. It's what does it mean to you? And I feel as though that's something that people aren't really thinking about universally. They're just thinking, oh, well, what is accepted? Well, I'm sorry to say, but human society doesn't have the right answers all the time.
And it goes back to the whole, like some of our other video subjects. We need to stop, or some of the other things we discussed today, we need to stop making it about everyone else. You know, it's focus on yourself, like show some self-love, but be mindful that other people are having the same thoughts and be willing to speak with them and keep an open mind and talk to them to have these conversations.
Absolutely. Empathy. It's very crucial to not only understanding yourself but understanding other people.
I think too many people try to find the one right answer.
Yeah.
Just the answer to everything.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about it, and it's occurred to me, how could any one thing be the answer to everything?
Yeah.
How is one thing the answer to everything, as in the answer to every question, like ever? That doesn't make sense. One thing can't be the answer to everything, like by definition. So
Yeah.
for me, and I've talked with you a lot about it with the different religious faiths and backgrounds and everything, I personally think every single main faith out there, I say main faith because I don't really buy too much into the giant spaghetti monster in the sky, because that's apparently a real church now,
All right.
but they all have a piece of the truth, of the big story of where we came from, why we're here, where we're going. And they've all gotten a glimpse of the truth, and through their own filter and lens and everything, they've articulated it and put it down and tried to act it out
Right.
in a way that they think is right. And the only place I draw a line is I just don't like it when faiths or practices or anything get the thought of ours is the right way, the one right way. It's a weird kind of arrogance, because for a lot of religions to come along and just say we've got the one right way, when other stuff has happened before us.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because growing up a Christian, I do find like a lot of values. Not only are they traditional or religious, but there's some. It's a good place to start, I think, that I found personally. But
Yeah.
it's
If you want to worship a chicken nugget or
I
you
do.
know, or an anime, yeah, or something,
Do you like chicken nuggets?
as long as it's your truth.
If you want to worship Kamina, that's fine by
It's
me.
true, exactly. I mean, as long as it's your truth, and you're doing good with it, and you're loving, and you're empathetic, and you're listening, and you're understanding, and you're doing as much as you can in a positive way, that's what really matters. It's not, going to one specific building every one day of the week, every week.
Especially if that means nothing to you. Because
Right,
if
yeah.
that means nothing to you and you're only doing it because you think that it's gonna... I want to be careful with this.
Yeah.
it's okay.
If your only reason for going to church is because you think it's gonna make big guns upstairs happy with you, I feel like you're kind of missing the point of why he wants you there in the first place.
Yeah.
And I'm not even a practicing Christian, but that's just one particular example. And that's not to look down on anybody who goes to it because they think it's a part of their duty, or they're doing something that they owe to the Lord, or what have you. Everybody's motivations are their own. But I'm just saying, if you're not following tenets of a faith because they personally resonate with you, then maybe you should reevaluate what faith you've chosen and why. You want stuff that resonates with you on like a very deep personal level, where you read it, or you hear it, or you think about it, and that little you inside your soul is just like, yeah, that's right. I feel that. That's good. That's a good thing to do. It's like, that's what you want to try to find. Not like I should do that because I'm scared of this happening, or I should do that because that's what my mother would want, or I should do this because so what else am I gonna do?
Very good. Very good. So on that note, yeah.
On that note, we're all a bunch of heathens and we're going to hell.
And
There
every
you go.
religion.
Every religion.
God, sponsor us.
Thanks for watching. If you guys liked it, come back next week or tomorrow or whenever the heck you feel like, and come subscribe to Psycosmos, because we've got you and your future in mind.